slammed onto the floor. "Take it off, bitch," he laughed. "Come on, show us what you're hiding under that uniform." Two of his friends howled like it was a comedy show. Phones came up, recording. Olivia's face went pale, but her hands didn't shake. She just swallowed and whispered, "Please, don't." The biker leaned closer, grinning. "Aw, the rookie's scared. That's cute." Then he grabbed the collar of her shirt. And that's when the man in the corner finally stood up. A Navy SEAL. No shouting, no threats. Just a slow step forward. At his feet, the K9 rose too. Its ears snapped up. Its body went stiff. And the second the biker smirked and said, "What's your dog gonna do, tough guy?" The K9 exploded into a violent bark and lunged straight toward him. If you love stories where bullies finally meet the wrong person, comment where you're watching from and hit subscribe, because this one gets ugly fast. It started like any other night at the Rusty Spur Diner. Cheap coffee, neon lights buzzing, and the kind of small-town silence that only breaks when trouble decides to walk in. Olivia was new here. Blonde hair tied back, soft voice, rookie waitress apron, and that polite smile people mistake for weakness. She moved between tables with a tray in her hands, taking orders, refilling drinks, trying to stay invisible. But the moment the front door swung open and 5 tattooed bikers stomped inside like they owned the place, every regular in the diner stopped chewing. Olivia didn't. She just kept walking, like she'd learned a long time ago that fear is loud and discipline is quiet. The bikers didn't sit like customers. They spread out like predators. One took the booth, 2 leaned against the counter, and the last 2 stood near the hallway to the back like they were blocking exits on purpose. Their leader was thick-necked, sleeveless leather vest, fresh ink crawling up both arms, and a grin that never reached his eyes. He watched Olivia the way a man watches a target. "Hey, sweetheart," he called, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Bring me a beer, and don't make it slow." Olivia nodded once and wrote it down, calm, like she didn't hear the tone. The leader laughed and slapped the table. "Look at that. She's trained." When Olivia returned with drinks, biker number 2 leaned in too close, letting his knee press into her path so she'd have to brush past him. "Careful," he said, smirking. "Wouldn't want you spilling on us." Olivia shifted her weight and stepped around without touching him, smooth and controlled. That should have been the end of it. But men like that don't want peace. They want a reaction. Biker number 3 reached out and flicked her apron string. "You got a name, rookie?" Olivia didn't look at his hand. She looked at his wrist, the way it moved, the way his fingers twitched, like she was measuring him. Then she answered softly, "Olivia." The leader repeated it like a joke. "Olivia. Sounds expensive, but you're working here." The whole table laughed, and Olivia just stood there, holding the tray, eyes steady, expression neutral. And that's when the first person in the diner noticed something strange. At the far corner booth, a man sat alone in a dark hoodie. No beer, no food, just coffee. And at his feet, half hidden under the table, was a large working dog. Not a pet, not a fluffy family dog. A real K9. Ears forward, body still, eyes tracking everything. The dog didn't bark, didn't move. But it was watching the bikers like it already knew their next 10 mistakes. The man's hands were relaxed, but his posture wasn't. He was the kind of quiet that wasn't shy. It was trained. And Olivia, without turning her head, somehow shifted her gaze just enough to see him in the reflection of the coffee machine. The bikers kept escalating. Biker number 4 shoved a menu off the table and let it slap the floor. "Oops," he said, smiling. "Pick it up." Olivia didn't bend. She didn't argue. She simply stared at him for one long second, then stepped away and picked it up with 2 fingers like it was contaminated. That tiny moment, just a pause, made the leader's grin fade. Because humiliation isn't about power. It's about control, and Olivia wasn't giving them control. So the leader stood up, walked around the booth, and cut her off near the counter where everyone could see. He leaned close enough that Olivia could smell the alcohol on his breath. "You think you're too good to play along?" he muttered. Olivia's fingers tightened around the tray handle, then relaxed. "Sir," she said quietly. Please sit down. The leader laughed, loud and cruel. Oh, look, she's got rules. Then he did it. He grabbed the edge of her apron and yanked her toward him, hard enough that her shoulder hit the counter. The diner gasped. A woman near the window covered her mouth. The cook in the back froze. Olivia's face changed for half a second. Not fear, not panic. Something colder. Something that didn't belong on a waitress. Biker number 2 whistled. Damn, she's got a body under that thing. The leader tilted his head and smiled like he was enjoying a performance. Go on then, he said. If you want tips tonight, take it off. Olivia didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't even plead. She just stared at him with eyes that looked strangely tired, like she'd seen this kind of evil before. Only usually it came with rifles and radio static and dust storms. Her voice came out low, almost gentle. Don't, she said, not begging, warning. The leader's smile widened. Or what? He whispered. Then, louder, for the whole diner. Take it off, betch. The words hit the room like a slap. Chairs scraped. Someone stood up. Someone else backed away. And in the corner booth, the man in the hoodie finally moved. He stood slowly, like he had all the time in the world. And the K9 rose with him, instantly locked in, muscles coiling, teeth showing. The dog's growl was low and deep, vibrating through the diner like thunder under the floor. The leader turned his head, annoyed. What's this? He sneered. You got a dog? The man didn't answer. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He just took one step forward, and the K9 took one step forward too, eyes fixed on the biker's hands. Olivia still didn't look away from the leader. Her chest rose and fell once, slow and controlled. Like she was counting down. Like she was deciding whether she was going to stay under cover or end this. The leader tightened his grip on her apron and pulled again. The K9's growl snapped into a violent bark, sharp, explosive, aggressive, and the entire diner flinched as the dog lunged toward the biker. And that's when Olivia whispered 2 words that made the man in the hoodie freeze mid-step. Stand down. The entire diner went dead quiet the moment Olivia whispered, Stand down. Because the K9 actually hesitated. Not fully, not relaxed. But it checked itself for half a second, like it had just heard a command it recognized. From someone it wasn't expecting. The man in the hoodie froze too, his jaw tightening as his eyes snapped from the biker's hands to Olivia's face. The leader didn't notice any of that. He just laughed in her face, still gripping her apron. Oh, you're ordering the dog now? He sneered. What are you, some kind of cop? Olivia didn't answer. She just shifted her weight, barely an inch, and suddenly the biker's grip wasn't on fabric anymore. It was on a wrist position he didn't understand. The leader blinked, confused, because for the first time in his life, the prey wasn't reacting like prey. The man in the hoodie stepped forward, voice low but lethal. Let her go. That's all he said. Not a threat, a command. The leader turned his head like he was offended. Or what, tough guy? He jerked Olivia again, trying to show dominance. Big mistake. Olivia's eyes flicked to the man once, fast as a blink, and then back to the leader. It wasn't fear in her expression. It was calculation. The K9's body tightened, claws scraping the tile. The cook in the back muttered, "Oh no." Like he'd just realized this was about to become a crime scene. And the biker still didn't understand. He thought the dog was the danger. He didn't realize the danger was the blonde waitress he had pinned to the counter. Then the leader made it worse. He leaned close and whispered something filthy in Olivia's ear, something the audience couldn't hear, but Olivia's face changed at. Not angry, not shocked, just distant. Like a switch flipped, and she stepped out of civilian mode. Biker number 2 laughed and said, "Come on, sweetheart, don't act shy." Biker number 3 moved behind her, boxing her in, trying to corner her like she had nowhere to go. And that's when Olivia finally spoke again, her voice calm enough to terrify anyone who knew what calm like that meant. "Last warning," she said. "Hands off." The leader grinned. Or you'll what? Call your manager. The man in the hoodie reached into his jacket, slowly, controlled. The bikers saw it and immediately reacted like hyenas. Biker number 4 stepped toward him. Oh, look, he's got a gun! Chairs scraped back. A woman screamed, but it wasn't a gun, it was a badge case. The man flipped it open, and even from across the diner, the metallic flash was unmistakable. Military, not police, not security. The leader's grin faltered for half a second. What the hell is that? He snapped. The man didn't raise his voice. You don't want this. The K9's eyes never left the biker's hands, and Olivia, still trapped between two of them, whispered under her breath like she was talking to herself. Please don't make me do this. Biker number 2 finally crossed the line. He reached for Olivia's hair, yanking her ponytail back hard enough to make her head tilt. Smile for me, he said. That's when everything happened at once. Olivia's right hand came up like lightning. She didn't punch him. She didn't slap him. She hooked 2 fingers under his wrist, twisted, stepped in, and in one clean motion slammed him face first into the counter so hard the coffee machine rattled. The sound was sickening. The diner erupted. Biker number 3 grabbed for her shoulder, and Olivia moved like water, turning inside his reach, elbowing him in the throat with a short, brutal strike that made him choke and stumble backward. 2 bikers down in under 2 seconds. No screaming, no rage, just surgical violence. The leader's eyes widened in disbelief. What the? He started, but he never finished, because the K9 exploded forward. A deep, savage bark filled the diner, and the dog lunged directly at biker number 4, the one moving toward the man with the badge case. The biker swung instinctively, but the K9 was faster. It hit him low, slammed him into a table, and the entire booth flipped. Plates shattered. Coffee spilled. Biker number 4 screamed as the dog pinned him, teeth inches from his throat, growling like a machine. The man in the hoodie stepped in behind the K9, voice sharp now. Down! The dog held. Perfect control. That was not a random dog. That was a trained war dog. And the leader finally realized he wasn't in a diner anymore. He was in an ambush. He let go of Olivia and stepped back, hands raised like he wanted to play innocent. Whoa, 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 she attacked us, he shouted. Olivia didn't chase him. She didn't lunge. She just straightened her apron slowly, like she was resetting herself. But her eyes were different now. Biker number 5, the quiet one, reached into his vest. Olivia saw it instantly. The man in the hoodie saw it too. The K9's ears snapped toward him, and for one terrifying moment, everyone in that diner understood the same thing at the same time. This wasn't harassment anymore. It was turning into something deadly. The leader barked, "Get her!" And biker number 5 pulled out a knife. Not a little pocket knife, a long serrated blade meant for one thing. The man in the hoodie moved to draw his sidearm, but Olivia beat him to the moment. She stepped forward, right into the knife's range, like she didn't care, like she'd walked into worse. Her hands came up, open palms, calm posture, almost peaceful. The biker with the knife sneered. "What now, waitress?" Olivia's voice was barely above a whisper. "You really want to do this?" The biker lunged, and Olivia smiled. Not a sweet smile, a soldier's smile, because she wasn't about to be saved. She was about to finish it. And the man in the hoodie finally said the words that made the whole diner freeze harder than any bark ever could. "Commander Hayes," he whispered. "Is that you?" Before we continue, comment K9 if you want Olivia to go full savage, because the next 10 seconds are about to be the most brutal moment in this entire story. The knife came in fast, a dirty forward stab like the biker had done it before. Olivia didn't jump back. She didn't scream. She didn't even flinch. She stepped in, like she was closing distance on purpose, and her left hand snapped down, catching his wrist at the exact angle that stole his strength. Her right hand chopped into his forearm, and the blade clattered onto the tile with a sharp metallic ring that made half the diner gasp. The biker's face twisted in shock. He tried to swing with his free hand, but Olivia was already behind his shoulder, twisting him into a lock so tight his knees buckled. She leaned in and whispered something only he could hear. His eyes went wide. Not from pain. From fear. That's when the Navy SEAL finally moved. The man in the hoodie stepped forward, calm but deadly, like he'd been waiting for the last excuse. "That's enough," he said. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. His K9 was still pinning biker number 4 against a flipped booth, teeth hovering near the man's throat, growling so low it felt like the floor was vibrating. The leader biker backed up, palms out, trying to pretend this was a misunderstanding. "She attacked us. We were just—" He stopped when the SEAL's eyes locked onto him. Those weren't bar fight eyes. Those were war eyes. The leader's mouth opened again, but no sound came out. Biker number 1, the leader, made a desperate choice. He grabbed a chair and swung it toward the K9 like he was going to save his friend. The K9 didn't dodge. It launched. One explosive movement. It slammed into his legs, taking him down so hard his head hit the floor with a crack that made the waitress behind the counter scream. The chair skidded away. The leader tried to crawl, but the K9 was already on him, barking in his face, controlling him, owning him. The SEAL snapped. "Heel!" And the dog instantly shifted position, pinning the biker's shoulder with its weight instead of its teeth. Perfect control. The kind of control you only see in dogs trained to operate around live weapons. Across the diner, biker number 2 was still groaning on the counter, blood on his lip. Biker number 3 was choking, clutching his throat, eyes watering. Biker number 5, the knife guy, was trapped in Olivia's lock, shaking like his bones were about to pop. And Olivia still looked calm. Too calm. Like her body was running on a different system than everyone else's. She let him go suddenly, shoving him forward. He stumbled and caught himself, staring at her like he didn't know whether to fight or run. Olivia didn't chase. She just stood there, shoulders relaxed, hands down, blonde hair falling loose from her clip. Her voice was quiet. "Sit down," she said. And the biker actually hesitated like he might obey. Then the leader biker did the one thing that made Olivia's eyes change. He laughed. Even with the K9 barking in his face, even with his friends bleeding and wheezing, he laughed like this was still his world. "You think you're tough?" he spat. "You're a waitress. You're nothing. You hear me? Nothing." He turned his head and shouted toward the door. "Hey, get in here!" Like he had backup waiting outside. The SEAL's posture snapped sharper, the K9's ears lifted. Olivia's gaze flicked toward the window. And in that tiny half-second, the entire diner felt it. Something outside was moving. A motorcycle engine roared. Then another. Then 3 more. The sound hit the diner like thunder. People started whispering. Someone in the back said, "Oh my God," because they realized this wasn't just 5 bikers. It was a whole pack. The leader biker grinned, teeth red with spit and blood. "Yeah," he said, breathing hard. "That's my boys." He looked at Olivia again, and his voice dropped low and ugly. "Now you're gonna pay for embarrassing me." The SEAL stepped between Olivia and the leader without even thinking. Protective. Instinct. Like she mattered more than the whole room. He reached into his jacket, and this time it wasn't a badge. It was a sidearm. He didn't raise it yet. He just held it low. Ready. "Everyone get down," he commanded. Chairs scraped. People dropped behind booths. The cook ducked behind the counter. The K9 moved into position beside him, body low, ready to launch. Olivia didn't duck. She didn't hide. She just stared at the door like she was measuring the exact timing of what was about to happen. And then, through the glass, they saw them. More bikers. At least 6, maybe 8. Big guys. Heavy boots. Leather vests. Patches. One of them carried a metal chain. Another had a bat. One had something tucked under his vest that looked like a gun. The leader biker on the floor started laughing again, louder this time. "You're dead!" he hissed at Olivia. "I'm gonna make you beg!" The SEAL's jaw tightened. The K9 growled. And Olivia slowly bent down and picked up the knife off the floor. The entire diner froze. Because the way she held it wasn't sloppy. It wasn't emotional. It was professional. And the SEAL saw it too. He turned his head slightly and stared at her hands, then at her face, like he was watching a ghost come back to life. "Olivia," he whispered, not loud enough for anyone else. "Don't." Olivia didn't look at him. She kept her eyes on the door. "They're not here for you," she said softly. "They're here for me." The seal's expression shifted. Confusion, then recognition, like a memory slamming into place. The door flew open. 2 new bikers stormed in first, scanning, ready to swing. One of them barked, "Where is she?" The leader biker on the floor yelled, "Right there!" and pointed at Olivia. The K9 exploded forward again, a blur of muscle and teeth and pure rage, slamming into the first biker so hard it launched him backward into the entrance mat. The second biker raised the chain to swing until Olivia stepped in and caught it mid-air with her bare hand, wrapping it around her forearm like it was nothing. The biker's face twisted. "What the?" he started. Olivia yanked, hard. He flew forward, and she drove her knee into his stomach so cleanly he folded like paper. The chain fell. The diner erupted into screams again. The seal moved fast, disarming one of the incoming bikers with a brutal strike to the wrist, dropping him flat with a single punch. 3 enemies down in seconds. Exactly like the blueprint you described. But then, the biker in the doorway, the one with the vest bulge, pulled out a handgun and aimed it straight at Olivia's chest. The seal raised his weapon. The K9 lunged. Olivia didn't move. She just stared at the gun like she'd seen it 1,000 times. And the biker with the handgun smirked and said, "You're not getting saved this time, Commander," because he knew who she was. And in that moment, Olivia realized the truth. This wasn't a random biker gang. This was a hit. And the man pulling the trigger wasn't here to scare her. He was here to finish the mission her whole team died for. And then the gunman squeezed the trigger. And Olivia didn't even blink. The gun went off. A flash. A bang. A woman screamed. But Olivia didn't fall. Because the second that biker squeezed the trigger, the Navy SEAL moved like lightning. He slammed into Olivia's shoulder and dragged her sideways behind the counter. The bullet ripped through the menu board instead, splintering wood and glass. Plates shattered. People hit the floor. The K9 barked like a demon, lunging so hard the leash snapped tight. The shooter tried to fire again, until Olivia reached up, grabbed the SEAL's wrist, and pushed his gun down. "Don't shoot in here!" she hissed. The SEAL stared at her like she was insane. And then he realized. She wasn't scared. She was calculating. The shooter stepped forward, weapon still raised. "There you are," he growled. "Commander Olivia Hayes." The entire diner went silent at that word. Commander. Even the bikers froze for a split second like they didn't expect their own guy to say it out loud. Olivia stood up slowly, hands visible, calm as stone. "You shouldn't be saying my name," she said. The shooter laughed. "Your name's been dead for years." He took a step closer. "But I've got a paycheck that says otherwise." The SEAL's eyes narrowed. He didn't know her full story, not yet, but he knew one thing. Nobody talks to a normal waitress like that. Nobody hunts a normal waitress like that. That's when the K9 snapped. Not randomly, not wildly. The dog's ears locked forward, body low, and it launched across the diner in one clean arc, straight at the shooter's arm. The biker fired again, panicking, but the shot went wide. The K9 hit him hard, teeth clamping onto his forearm with perfect control, ripping the gun out of his grip and slamming him to the floor. The weapon skidded under a booth. The shooter screamed and tried to punch the dog, but the SEAL was already there, driving his knee into the man's ribs and pinning him. "Don't move!" he barked. The shooter spat blood and grinned like a man who still thought he was winning. "You're too late," he coughed. "The others already know she's alive." Olivia's face changed at that. Not fear. Something colder. Like a door inside her had just opened. She walked over to the shooter and crouched beside him. The diner watched her like she was a ghost. The biker tried to laugh again, but Olivia's voice cut through him. "Who sent you?" she asked. The shooter's eyes flicked to her hands, because her hands weren't shaking. You think you're gonna scare me? He sneered. Your whole team got wiped. You were supposed to go with them. Olivia leaned in closer. They died because they stayed loyal, she said quietly. I lived because I finished the mission. The shooter's grin faded, and for the first time, he looked unsure. Then Olivia did something that made the SEAL freeze. She reached into the biker's vest pocket and pulled out a phone. Unlocked, already recording, a live feed. The screen showed a man watching from somewhere else, somewhere safe, a man in a suit. Olivia stared at the screen, and the man on it stared back. And even through a blurry live video, Olivia recognized him, because she'd seen him once before. In a classified briefing, a name that wasn't supposed to exist, a name tied to the operation that killed her unit. The SEAL leaned over her shoulder. Who is that? He asked. Olivia's voice came out flat. The reason my team is dead. The man on the screen smiled like he was enjoying this. Hello, Commander, he said smoothly. You're still hard to kill. Olivia didn't speak. Her eyes didn't blink. The diner was still chaos. People crying, glass on the floor, bikers groaning. But Olivia's world narrowed to that screen. The man continued. You were supposed to disappear. Live your little fake life. Serve coffee. Smile. Pretend. He leaned closer to the camera. But you couldn't help yourself, could you? Olivia finally spoke. You used civilians, she said. You used dogs. You used my unit. The man shrugged. I used assets. Olivia's jaw tightened. My unit wasn't an asset. The man smiled wider. Then why are you still alive, Commander? The SEAL stepped forward, anger rising. Who the hell are you? He snapped. The man on the screen laughed. You're not cleared for this conversation. Then his eyes slid back to Olivia. Here's what's going to happen, he said calmly. You're going to come with my men, or I'm going to burn this place down with everyone inside. Olivia stared at him, unshaken. You don't have that kind of reach anymore, she said. The man's smile didn't move. Check outside. The SEAL turned his head. So did Olivia, and through the front windows of the diner, they saw headlights, not motorcycles, SUVs, black, unmarked, 4 of them. They rolled into the parking lot silently, like wolves. And that's when Olivia understood the truth. The bikers weren't the real threat. They were the distraction. The SEAL's hand tightened on his weapon. The K9 growled, deep and ugly, sensing the change in danger. The man on the screen whispered, almost kindly, You don't get to win twice, Commander. Olivia stood up, slow, controlled, and she did the last thing anyone expected. She looked at the SEAL, and she smiled, not a sweet smile, a warrior's smile, the kind that says, You have no idea what you just walked into. Then she turned to the diner, people hiding behind booths, shaking, terrified, and she raised her voice just enough for everyone to hear. Everyone stay down, she said. Her tone was calm. But it carried authority that didn't belong to a waitress. It belonged to someone who had commanded men in war. Then she looked at the SEAL again. You said you were just here for dinner, she murmured. The SEAL swallowed, eyes locked on her. Ma'am, he said quietly. What are you? Olivia's eyes flicked to the SUVs outside. I'm the reason they're scared, she said. And then she walked toward the front door, alone. The SEAL moved to stop her, but Olivia lifted one hand, just one, and he froze. Not because she forced him, because something in her presence told him she knew exactly what she was doing. The K9 tried to follow, but the SEAL grabbed the dog's harness. Hold, he whispered. The K9 whined, muscles shaking with restraint. Olivia stepped outside. The cold night air hit her face. The parking lot lights buzzed overhead, and the black SUVs idled like they owned the world. A man stepped out of the first SUV, not a biker, not a thug, a clean-cut operator type, tactical gear, earpiece, rifle low ready. He looked at Olivia, and his face went pale, because he recognized her. He swallowed hard and whispered into his mic, "Target confirmed. It's her." Olivia took one more step forward, and in that moment, the entire parking lot shifted. Because the men coming for her weren't confident anymore. They were nervous. And the Navy SEAL watching from inside the diner realized something terrifying. Olivia wasn't trapped with them. They were trapped with her. The operator raised his rifle, trying to recover his courage. Olivia's voice cut through the air like steel. "Tell your boss," she said, loud enough for the phone to pick up. "I'm done running." Then she reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a small, worn military coin. A challenge coin. She flipped it once in the air, caught it, and held it up under the parking lot light. And the SEAL inside the diner went completely still. Because he recognized it. Not a unit coin. A command coin. A coin only one kind of person carries. And the operator outside whispered, shaking, "Oh my God." And then, every SUV door opened at once. If you felt that moment in your chest, if you love stories where quiet people turn out to be the most dangerous ones in the room, make sure you subscribe, because Olivia's story isn't just about revenge. It's about survival, it's about loyalty, and it's about what happens when the world tries to bury a warrior.